want to start talking about Sauternes. First of all, tell me exactly where it is that we are.
So here we're in Barsac, in Chateau Climens, but the appellation is Barsac. Barsac is the only appellation within the Sauternes appellation. There are 5 villages in Sauternes, but the only one which has its own appellation is Barsac.
Okay, so we have Sauternes, we have 5 villages within Sauternes, and right now we're in Barsac, which is the only one that is the only one that has its own appellation. So explain to me then what it means to be an appellation.
Well, this is due to the fact that we have a very different terroir. So we are making the same kind of wines. We're making Sauternes, we're making sweet wines made with noble rotted grapes, and from Sémillon and sometimes Sauvignon, sometimes a hint of Muscadel. But in fact, the terroir is roughly very different, because when you go to Sauternes, you will see there are hills and it's more gravelly, and you have many different kind of soils. Here there was something very particular, and so we're almost directly on the very old limestone basis that covers all the region. This limestone is fissured and it permits natural drainage, which is very important, of course.
So the Barsac appellation is determined because of the terroir.
Yes.
Right. And your Sauternes happens to be 100% Sémillon.
Yes, you know, in Sauternes, generally speaking, you have more Sémillon because Sémillon is very good for noble rot. But here in Climens, we have 100% Sémillon, and this is very rare. This is due to the terroir, because we're very close to the limestone, and the way the Sémillon reacts to limestone terroir is absolutely fabulous.
So let's talk about the noble rot then. What exactly is noble rot?
Well, actually, it's something very special because it's botrytis. Botrytis is a very bad disease which is called grey rot, and something absolutely incredible and wonderful which is called noble rot. It's the same fungus, but the way it develops is different.
And so the Sémillon actually, the fungus attaches to the Sémillon better than other grapes?
Yes, because the skin is thinner, and so it's better for the fungus to develop. Look at that. Yeah, you know botrytis is coming.
Okay, so why are some green, some red?
Because in fact, botrytis will develop in a very uneven way in the vineyards, uneven way. And so you have golden grapes, and then you have ones which are just beginning to be a little pinky. Yeah. And this pink, we call it chocolate, because it looks like hot chocolate. And then the grapes are going to shrivel and concentrate, and that's what we call confit. This is the one we want. You have to taste it.
Okay. It is very good, but not as sweet as I thought.
No, because there's balance.
Makes sense. Okay, so we go have a sip. I'm trying to figure out how grapes that look like this can turn into this beautiful, world-famous Sauternes. Okay, let's go give it a try.
Yes.
That lots of people would think that a sweet wine would go with a dessert or something sweet, but that's a misconception, right?
Absolutely, and I'm really fighting as owner of Climens, and as I'm also the president of Classified Growth of Sauternes and Barsac, and we want people to realize that these wines are not only dessert wines, that they are incredibly versatile.
So then what would be your suggestion for food pairing?
First of all, isn't that a perfect aperitif? By itself, it's absolutely wonderful because it's so perfumed and well balanced. But it's also wonderful with many kind of food, in fact. With very traditional food here, we have it with chicken and fries.
Smells great. Merci. Now, Jean-Pierre, you're surrounded by some pretty famous properties here.
Yes, indeed. The terroir is magnificent. In front of us are, for instance, 4 magnificent first crus. Classé Chateau Raymond-Lafon, Séglas Rabot, La Forêt-Péraguet, Rennes-Vigneault. On this side, we have Chateau Climens. Behind us is Chateau Climens, across the road. So
You've got some pretty good neighbors.
yes, so are we. Pretty good too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, how did you end up here?
Okay, my father managed ICAM for 27 years, and friends of us wanted to sell this estate, and they asked my father to be a potential buyer. So we looked at it, and we said, yes, why not? And that's what happened.
Right. Now, what are you growing here?
We're growing basically 2 varietals. We're growing mainly 80% Semillon, these are Semillon grapes, and about 20% Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay. Now, these are the Semillon grapes?
Semillon, yes.
Okay, so then obviously a big part of what you're trying to do is get that magic botrytis
Right.
grape, or botrytis infected grape,
Right. Yes, Semillon is very sensitive to botrytis. That's why it's the main grapes we grow here. And you can see on this bunch of grapes, for instance, it's beautifully botrytized. Most of the bunch is turned, brownish.
Ah, okay.
And that's exactly what we're looking for, this kind of,
Okay.
you see?
Okay.
They're just
All
beautifully
right.
rotten, as we say here.
Beautifully rotten.
Yes. In fact, they're not rotten, they're dehydrated by the fungus. I prefer to say that because they don't taste like rotten thing. They are very
Right.
sweet and very tasty.
How do you know that this is ready to be picked?
Just by habit, and we know that when you have lost 80% of the juice, you have a certain amount of sugar, and it is perfectly ready to be picked. Botrytis is a fungus that would just spray little by little, unevenly. So these grapes are perfectly ready to be picked, but the other grapes are still plump and juicy.
Okay.
So you have to wait for a few more days.
Right, so you have some people who come and pick, you have to pick them one by one?
Yes,
And then you
individually.
pass through here multiple
Exactly.
times in order to get it?
It's almost nerve-wracking, I would say. It's
Yeah, I bet.
tedious, and we have a female crew because women are more capable of doing that job than men. Yes.
I won't comment on that. What does the Semillon add to the final blend?
The Semillon adds longevity, and the Sauvignon aromas.
Longevity meaning its ability to age?
To age for decades,
Okay,
yes.
okay. And then the Sauvignon adds the aroma?
The aromas, yes, extremely aromatic.
Okay, sounds good.
Yes.
I would like to have a look at the Sauvignon grapes.
Okay, sure. Yes, this looks like a great example. You see, tons of botrytis already.
Okay, they are a lot smaller.
Yes, they are. But it's good to eat, it's very aromatic, you can try it. The grapes are much smaller, but more intense. It's more tropical kind of taste.
I'm tired of looking at these in my hand.
Okay.
I want to go
agree.
try them out of the. I agree.
please.
I want to go try the barrel.
Okay,
Okay,
please, let's
let's go.
Let's do.
Now, after you've crushed the grapes, what's the process?
We just ferment them for 3 weeks in stainless steel tanks.
Okay.
And after that, they go right away in this aging cellar for 3 years in new oak.
Wow, for 3 years.
A long process, yes.
No kidding, that's a long process.
Need a lot of tannin, so it takes time to get
Right.
the tannin out of the wood.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, let's give it a try.
Okay?
Okay.
Sure.
You don't want to lose any there.
That's all right.
Oh. So this is a really light color.
Very young, very sweet still.
And so this is aged, this has been aging for 1 year?
Less.
Less than 1 year.
Yes.
What happens after 3 years?
Yes, during the aging process, we do one racking every 3 months. So in order to, all the sediments settle down. So every 3 months you get rid of the sediments, you do the
Okay.
racking.
Yeah.
And every 10 days or so you do the topping up. Due to evaporation, you lose wine. So you have to refill the barrel to avoid oxidation.
Okay, so you rack the wine to get
Yes.
rid of the sediment, and you do that every 3 months?
Yes.
And then you...
12 rackings in 3 years.
12 rackings in 3 years. And then you add more of the pressed grapes, or
Of the juice from,
of
the,
the juice,
from the,
yeah,
the next barrel.
into this barrel.
Mm-hmm.
And how you mentioned that it evaporates. How much does it evaporate?
All together with, rackings come together, we lose about 12% of the initial harvests.
So you must have to put a lot of grapes to make even one glass of wine.
Yes, because the glass is even it's shrinking.
Right, exactly.
It's
That's not a
shrinking.
good thing. Unless you're drinking
12%, it's a lot of, it's like paying a tax to God. We call it the angel share. Yeah.
All right, well, I've been holding this for too long, so let's give it a try.
I'm sorry, yes. Cheers.
Cheers. Now, I can definitely smell, this certainly smells like the grape outside. I can smell more of the Semillon grape in here.
Right, but it's so very young, very tropical.
Mm-hmm.
It's in its infancy.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like grape juice, almost like fruit juice, very tropical.
Like apricot.
Apricot,
Mm-hmm.
lemon, and mangoes.
Mm-hmm.
Very pleasant.
Okay. Now, what would you eat with this?
Traditionally, we used to eat around the world, sweet dishes, desserts. But we want to change that because it's very difficult to find the right dish matching a sweet wine, especially the right dessert, because most desserts are so sweet that it doesn't go together. So the best thing to do is I would say to try everything except dessert. And it's, because it is dessert.
I was just going to say, it is a dessert.
And the wine goes very well with exotic food, more like, Asian food, like Chinese food.
Really? Why would it go with Asian food?
There is a contrast because the sweetness of the wine and the saltiness and the peppery taste of the Chinese food make a contrast.
You can either compare or you can contrast. So in this case,
Yes.
it would be contrasting.
Yes, the perfect marriage, the traditional marriage is foie gras, of course, the French traditional way to serve it. Or if you want to contrast, you serve Roquefort cheese. And it works beautifully, yes. But Chinese food is amazing, especially duck, or salmon.
Like a Peking duck.
Exactly, yes.
Well, this smells great. Thank you.
It's a very interesting story with the wine of Yquem. And Lursalus, during the war with Napoleon, stayed a long time in the war. He arrived very late for the picking here.
Okay.
And the botrytis arrive in a grapes, and the people wait. When he arrives, all the grapes are contaminated by the botrytis,
Right.
but he press. He makes a fantastic juice. I think he is with a lot of quality, with a lot of sugar, with a lot of flavor. It's a story of Yquem, but for me, when I drink a lot of wine, I explain this story.
And I guess Napoleon probably drank.
Yes, exactly.
Then do you think that the wine that they produced back then, in the days of Napoleon, is the same wine that you produce today?
Yes, yes. But,
Why?
but you have the proportion of the grape variety change, because before you have between 50 and 50% of Semillon and Sauvignon.
Okay.
but I suppose you have just a little part of Muscadel. Now you have a large proportion of Semillon, 80% and 20% Sauvignon, and no Muscadel.
So why would that change? Why is there now no Muscadel, yet back then there probably was?
I think it's a choice of the team with the age, and this percentage is good for the balance of the wine.
Okay, then tell me about the terroir, because it obviously has put you at the top of the world in terms of Sauternes. The 1855 classification had you at the top of the world.
You know my story, très bien.
And so what is it about this terroir?
The terroir is an amazing terroir, and the topography of Chateau Climens, you have 3 hills, is very sensual terroir and give a lot of complexity.
Okay, so what am I looking at here then?
This terroir, this part, you have the gravel on the top, and under you have a lot of clay.
Okay.
And the clay is interesting because the clay feeds the water to the roots. It's a natural drainage.
Okay. Now you are in the appellation of Sauternes,
Yes.
also in the commune called Sauternes. And so what is it that has put this appellation on the map and Chateau Climens on the map?
I think Chateau Climens is just in the middle of the appellation, on the top of the hill. It's a very right position. In the north, you have the large valley of the Garonne Valley.
Okay.
In south, you have the large forest.
Yep.
And just in the middle is Sauternes. And after, in the west, you have the river Ciron.
Okay.
This river Ciron across the river Garonne. And when you came in the morning, very early in the morning, you have the foggy situation on the vineyard with a lot of humidity.
Right.
And the east wind dries the grapes, and the alternance between humidity in morning and the dry situation in afternoon are so very interesting for the development of the Botrytis cinerea. But the picking in Chateau Climens or in picking in general in Sauternes is amazing picking. The picking is not the easy picking, but I think you have my team. You have established a very good symbiosis between the vineyard. It's very important to understand where is a good grapes to pick, etc., etc. If you compare with the red wine, is the red wine you pick each plot, and you put each plot in a vats. It's more easy to select the grapes. Here is so very complicated.
Right.
But also, you make Yquem only with the climatology of Yquem. If you have not the concentration, you don't pick. Like 72, 64, you have no vintage of Chateau Climens.
Right. So there was nothing.
Nothing.
So you're that picky that you said we're not doing a vintage this year.
Exactly.
Okay.
For example, in 99 vintage, you have the concentration of the grapes is between 19 and 18, and it's not a good concentration to pick. The people wait, and the concentration grow up, and it picked at the right moment. It makes a great vintage.
Then it must be a very fine line between passion and risk.
Yes, I think it's a unique selection.
How would you describe this wine to somebody?
Very clear. And after you swell the wine and the glass, and you have just a touch of apricot and a touch of orange skin, and just a little honey.
What's that?
Honey. Honey is miel.
Honey.
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 Sorry
Okay,
for
honey.
my accent.
Honey.
And the nose is very complex. And in the palate, the attack is very fresh. And the wine is inside the palate is like a sphere. And you have the very good balance with this. You have no many sugar inside. Is a very powerful and very long taste, but the wine is so very elegant.
Yeah.
And the touch of the tannin is like a cashmere for me.
How would you describe to people why they should spend a little bit more money for what's in this glass?
Yquem is a luxury brand for the people in general. But a lot of people are very afraid to taste Yquem because it's expensive wine. But for me, I suppose you have the very good solution for Yquem is to make Yquem by the glass.
Right.
You put
Okay.
Yquem by the glass,
Yeah.
and the people have just a glass of Yquem
Yeah.
with the association with the good food.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose it is because it's difficult to drink Yquem, one bottle of Yquem with two people.
Right. Yeah, it
So
would
have
be.
many
It would
wine,
be.
but just a glass of Yquem,
Yeah.
Yquem is
So
a
is that
solution.
something that you're going to start doing?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I will keep an eye out for it.
Merci. Thank you very much.
Yes.